Another edition of Behind the Lines presented by BetMGM and TheLines.com. I'm Eli Hershkovich, joined by Christian Cipollini, trading manager at BetMGM Sportsbook. Christian, Aaron Rodgers on Tuesday morning saying on the play that Mike Williams slipped. He wasn't in the right spot. We should all be held to a certain standard. Well, I got crushed in week 6, and I believe BetMGM did as well. Road favorites going 9-0 against the number in week 6, the highest cover rate for road favorites in a single week without an against the spread loss since the merger. So that dates back all the way to 1970. Have you held yourself accountable? Has BetMGM held itself accountable after the public dominated on Sunday and really in week 6 overall?
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. We've been waiting for the other shoe to fall. It was 5 great weeks to start the season, and then this was inevitable to come. As you mentioned, pretty much every game, you talked about it last week, almost every one of them went in the public's way, especially the primetime games. Jets losing last night, Giants the night before, all bad outcomes for us. Atlanta killing Carolina, even the Lions killing the Cowboys. Usually we take Cowboys bets, but it was very overwhelming on the Lions, so pretty much you name it, not good. Very good week for the public, though.
And just to pile on to the Jets' loss, could be a positive, but I don't think there was much futures movement for whether it's Jets Super Bowl or to win the AFC. So the Jets acquired Davante Adams on Tuesday morning, less than 12 hours after losing to the Bills on Monday Night Football. I don't think Mike Williams is going to get another target in a Jets uniform. Even if he stays on the team, it seems like he's going to get dealt. But with Adams in the fold and Rodgers not trusting Williams, and rightfully so, seems like his numbers, his days in New York are numbered. So has there been any shift with Jets futures and lack of movement so far, indicating that there really hasn't been? And also any movement for the Jets Sunday Night Football matchup against the Steelers, whether it's handle or in terms of the number?
Yeah, so from a futures perspective, yeah, we didn't really move too much. We went from 3,500 to plus 3,500 to plus 3,000. So not a huge move. A lot of that comes from the fact that last night was a massive game for the Jets. Drops them back 3 games in the division, starting out 2-4. Being 3-3 would have been very different there, and that probably would have moved their odds more. They're still going to have a pretty uphill battle as it comes to the Super Bowl side of things. At this point, they're probably looking at a wild card spot, which is, obviously going to be a tough road, especially in a very competitive AFC. So not too much movement there, but in the game, there was about 1.5 movement. That game was about at a pick-em before the Davante Adams trade this morning. Now we're at 1.5 Jets road favorites here, so it's about 1.5.
Offense should see an uptick, but it's against one of the best defenses in the NFL and an elite pass rush. Jets' offensive line has a lot of notable pieces, but they really haven't combined to do much in terms of protecting Rodgers. Some big sacks in the second half of last night's loss to Buffalo. So let's shift over to Thursday Night Football, Christian. Lowest total on the board this week. The Broncos at the Saints. Denver holding steady as around a 2-point road favorite in New Orleans. Saints have dropped 4 straight games. Does anything for this game, despite the lack of offense projected, stand out, whether it's spread, total, or player props for the handle?
Yeah, this one will be a little bit annoying. Although it doesn't seem like we're going to get Carr, so it seems like we're going to be back to Rattler, which will probably keep this number about where it's going to be at. Right now, we're taking about 50-50 action. Nothing that's really swaying anything at this moment. A couple player props I've seen. Spencer Rattler over half an interception has been getting hit a bunch, and then another one is Devon Vele over receiving yards. So he had a decent game last week, and people are jumping on him early this week.
High 20s, low 30s, depending on where this number may move later in the week ahead of Thursday Night Football. And his snap rate and overall participation after returning from a rib injury going back to week 1, suiting up in the loss to the Chargers on Sunday, certainly worth noting against the Saints defense that has really struggled in nickel coverage over the first 6 weeks. Another team that has stood out against the spread, Saints have struggled. Colts have excelled, 500 overall straight up, but tied for the second best against the spread record so far at 5-1 across the NFL. The Dolphins, off of a bye week, tied for the second worst against the spread mark in the league. Indianapolis, around a 3.5-point favorite. Vig in the Dolphins' directions, though. Colts at home against Miami. Tyler Huntley against to be determined for the Colts. It's unknown whether Anthony Richardson is going to come back off the oblique injury. He was a game-time decision against the Titans on Sunday. He didn't play. Joe Flacco wins the Colts the game. Shane Steichen saying that if Richardson is healthy, he's the starting quarterback. So we'll see what happens ahead of this matchup. But where is the early action for a game that two teams headed in opposite directions, at least when it comes to beating the point spread?
Yeah, so we're taking just a little bit more Colts action at the moment, but not too much. We're projecting this to be as if Richardson playing. That's the way the number is lining up now. But at this point, there's probably not going to be too much of a sway, even if it does move to Flacco, because Flacco has looked pretty decent filling in. If anything, we have them at this point about the same rating in the system. So I wouldn't expect too much movement. Maybe down to 3, but I wouldn't expect too much more than that. But we're taking a little bit more Colts action.
Let's take a look at probably the most interesting game on the slate. Maybe the Jets get more headlines just because of the Adams deal, but one of Rodgers' former rivals, the Minnesota Vikings, taking on another, the Detroit Lions, on the early Sunday afternoon slate. Minnesota undefeated against the spread, coming off of the bye, and they're taking on a Lions team that has the second best odds to win the NFC after blowing out the aforementioned Cowboys, as you touched on from the get-go. Minnesota, 2.5-point favorite at BetMGM, total of 49.5, one of the highest totals on the board in a week that features a ton of them, a lot of lopsided totals over toward the over. So where have you guys seen some of the early week movement for a big NFC North matchup?
Yeah, high total here, about as many points as the Lions scored last week, but as of right now, we're taking so far nothing but Lions action. Very lopsided to the Lions, and then overs action as well, probably stemming from how many points the Lions scored last week. So will probably be a running theme the rest of the season that pretty much anytime the Lions are playing, we're probably going to be rooting for whoever they're playing against, and it looks like that's going to go this week. So book will want Minnesota. Right now, a lot of Lions bets.
That's got to be an oddity for you guys. An undefeated team, not only straight up, but against the spread. Preseason expectations weren't high for Minnesota, but they've exceeded them times a million. Sam Darnold's MVP odds have slimmed down from, I think, 200 to 1 preseason, right around that number, to in the 15 to 1 range. Lions, yes, a darling at the sports book since Dan Campbell has taken over, but still, just going back to the fact that Minnesota has dominated both against the spread and straight up this season. Unfamiliar territory maybe for a team that has done so well so far.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can see that a bit in what this line is. The fact that Minnesota is 2.5-point favorites at home, especially after last week of the Lions just completely destroying the Cowboys. Preseason line of this probably had Lions probably about 2.5, 3-point favorites themselves. So it does show that there's a little bit of more respect shown to the Vikings with that number in itself. But I'm just only going to imagine that we're going to take Lions bets because of the fact that if you're going to give the Lions with points at this point, people are going to take it. So probably just what we'll end up seeing. But I'd say there definitely is some respect shown to the Vikings here.
Yeah, and just to affirm your point, the preseason look-ahead line for this game, granted all the odds for look-ahead lines came out in May, so obviously adjustments taking place at least all the way up to week 7, but the line for this game was Detroit -3. So field goal favorites, the market now respecting Minnesota, but I get it to a point, Detroit taking action early in the week. Still, I have a hard time fading the Vikings in this spot at home coming off of a bye. But staying in the NFC, big matchup at least with team names, the Eagles taking on the Giants, and I'm sure you'll see a decent handle for this one, despite the fact that both teams have underperformed expectations. The Eagles 3.5-point favorites on the road at MetLife Stadium. Juice in the Giants' favor, at least against the spread. Jalen Hyatt hinting that Malik Neighbors is going to be back in the lineup after missing the last 2 games for New York with a concussion. Giants' passing attack has at least struggled going back to Sunday Night Football, with New York losing outright to the Bengals. Daniel Jones with just 5 yards per pass attempt, below average and then some across the NFL in terms of passing efficiency. And I wonder what the odds, if there were odds for Nick Sirianni yelling at any fans at the stadium, would be for this game. But regardless, where have you guys seen some of the early movement, or at least action, for Giants at home against the Eagles?
Yeah, and early action has been on the Eagles. I do probably expect that to change a little bit if Neighbors is confirmed in. We're assuming that he will be confirmed in at some point, but I think that's when we'll start getting the Giants bets. We didn't take any this week at all when they were playing the Bengals, and I do assume that some of that was off of Neighbors because, I mean, they have a bad record at 2-4, but they've actually probably exceeded what we expected them to be at this point. And then that offense is significantly better with Neighbors in it. Obviously, lack of weapons yesterday, but I'll expect a little bit more Giants bets, but I imagine all in all, we'll probably take a lot more Eagles, especially as we get closer to kickoff.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use promo code THELINES, that's the lines one word, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code THELINES. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll then receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure to use bonus code THELINES when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, and 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire within 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code THELINES and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Can't get you out of here, Christian, without talking some London action, breakfast, and football. What's better than that? Jacksonville would probably beg to differ after getting blown out by the Bears on Sunday in Week 6, and we'll touch on Chicago here in a moment. But Jaguars, essentially their second straight home game, considering they're playing in London for a second straight week. 5.5-point favorites against the Patriots and rookie quarterback Drake May, total of 42.5. Two of the worst teams against the spread, right around there with Miami so far. And both teams in positions where the market was on them, their lines dipped because bettors took action on Jacksonville and New England in Week 6, and both were blown out. Anything stand out for the spread or total on the early Sunday matchup?
Yeah, we really didn't send our best over the pond this week. They don't really get the best matchup. It's kind of stunning just to see the Jaguars at 5.5-point favorites against anybody with the way that they've looked. But that's where they sit. We have so far taken more Jags money. I'm guessing this will get a little bit closer to 50-50 as we get there. I don't expect it to be one of our most bet on London games of the year, but right now it's more Jags money.
I wanted to wrap it up here with the Bears. Jacksonville losing to Chicago, blowout fashion in London in Week 6. And Caleb Williams, rookie quarterback for the Bears, number 1 overall pick, now with the second shortest odds to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was around that number or around that position last week, but his Rookie of the Year odds have dipped from plus 350-ish down to plus 160. The Commanders' rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, Still minus 250, so right around the same number as well, going back to week 6. But Williams has certainly increased his probability to catch Daniels in this market. And just looking at the Bears overall this season, opening the year, Chicago right around even money to make the playoffs, despite the fact that the Bears are over 500. Their odds have actually worsened to make the postseason, right around plus 160. So anything stand out with the action on Chicago, whether it's futures to make the playoffs or with Williams in particular?
Yeah, this will be it's probably going to end up shaping up to be a pretty good offensive rookie of the year race. Now it's shaping up to the point where it's just going to be these two quarterbacks. Daniels obviously has a huge edge, as he basically hasn't had a bad game to start this season, where Caleb had a couple bad ones to start, but he looks like he's starting to find his own here, then to the point where all it's going to take is a game or two bad from Jaden Daniels to really make this race closer. A lot of times too with these awards, it's really about how you finish. So while he's already gotten off to a hot start, it's really not guaranteed it'll stay that way, especially if he ends up having a bad last 5 weeks, something like that, and Caleb has a good one, it could certainly switch. But yeah, at this point, it's looking like a nice 2-horse race, which is usually pretty good for us. From Bears futures perspective, we definitely have seen more action over the last 3 weeks when they're on a 3-game winning streak. The offense has looked a lot better. The defense has looked a lot better. And that blowout win on Sunday definitely took a lot more bets in. We're still not really sweating them at this moment, but yeah, some of their problems come from the fact that their division is right now the juggernaut division, 4 wins by each team. So that's why they're to make the playoff odds have seemed to get worse as they've put together the wins. It's just the fact that they're pretty much going to be looking at a wild card position if they're going to want to get in, which might be a little bit tougher.
Looking ahead to week 8, the Bears face the Commanders, so a huge matchup for Offensive Rookie of the Year odds. Look ahead line for this game as of this recording on October 15th. Bears short favorites, then at the Cardinals, then at home against the Patriots before taking on the Packers, where right now, short home underdogs. Pretty light schedule looking ahead. I hate the Chicago Bears, and I live in Chicago. Coming from Chicago Sports Radio, dealing with homers kind of took the fandom out of me, but a pretty light schedule ahead for the Bears and Caleb Williams, and that Week 8 matchup is going to be fascinating from a lot of different angles, with Williams taking on Daniels, seemingly head-to-head for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But, Christian, really appreciate the time. Trading manager over at BetMGM Sportsbook here on Behind the Lines. Always appreciate the insight, man.
Anytime. Good luck to everyone with your bets this week.
As Christian said, good luck with your Week 7 bets, whether it's futures or single game wagers. For Christian, I'm Eli Hershkovich. Thanks for watching and listening. Behind the Lines presented by BetMGM Sportsbook and TheLines.com. So long, everybody.